Hello to folks online. So our roll call, is it necessary to go through each individual or is it just observed? I don't mind.
That's up to you.
Okay, why don't we just go around for the record, state our name. I'm Nellie Hutt.
I'm Paul Rivers, Ricardo Morales.
Arnetta Wire.
Jim Goldman.
Sega Gurma from Office of Law.
Yona Kemp, Executive Secretary.
And online, please.
Brenda McChristen.
Herman Charity.
We're good. I think that takes 5 minutes, but we move on to the review of the minutes of the last meeting? Has everyone had a chance to take a look at them? Or do you have any questions, comments, additions, or so forth? Would you like to?
I
Bring our
had
attention
just a
to
preliminary comment, not on the content of the minutes. I scanned them. They look good.
Okay.
Very well done.
Thank you.
An observation and then, a potential decision. Under the Open Meetings Act, we're required to either have minutes of the last meeting, or if there is a full video of the prior meeting, the video can serve as the minutes.
Okay.
So I just throw out there that while the minutes are terrific,
We do both, so both will be uploaded to the website.
and my suggestion would be that we consider just relying on the minutes instead. And the reason I make the suggestion is only from,
You said relying on the minutes.
thank you for correcting me, go with the video and not go through the process of generating and approving minutes. Minutes can become an object of discussion at meetings, and in my mind anyway, whenever that's occurred in other board meetings that I've been participating in or supporting, an unnecessary distraction. So, which is why when I saw originally in the Open Meetings Act training that the video would suffice, I thought that would be, that's good. That's a good development. So I'd throw that out as a suggestion anyway.
So maybe we can talk, maybe once we get through the business at hand, because the minutes are done already, we know we still have to work through procedures. And so if we're going to be following Robert's Rules of Orders and then developing procedures for the group, maybe that's a good time to talk about what we want in those procedures, up to and including minutes, and how we want to handle recording the meetings.
I think that is a good
That's
suggestion.
just my 2 cents. I just wanted to kind of keep us on.
Okay, thank you. I think it's a good thing. We can decide later. I see no objection really to either one. I think just for anybody's comfort level, I think, the meetings are fine just for our records. We don't want to view the video. It doesn't really matter to me. I think that if we have any objections or concerns, we'll raise them, whether they're meeting notes or video.
Okay.
Is that okay?
That's fine.
Anybody else?
I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
A second.
They are approved. Thank you. I'm sorry, did you say something?
I was trying to figure this out.
Oh. All right, thank you. We will move on.
Just
Yes.
quick question. So are we trying to do this as Robert's rules, or are we kind of loosely going by?
It's not.
So, I'm sorry. No.
Please say no.
Oh,
Please. Thank
okay.
you.
So I have a document for you guys today that will assist in,
All of
with
this.
all these issues.
Okay, great.
Number one, minutes, what method you guys want to use in conducting your minutes. It's the rules of evidence. Under the county code, the board is required to pass the rules of evidence. So I've come up with an initial draft, which should have been handed out to you guys
Mhm.
for your consideration. So that's one issue that's not in the rules of procedure right now, but I think is maybe a good addition if the board is so inclined.
Okay.
I missed the vote on that motion, but is it unanimous? I mean, or did we take a vote? I didn't see it.
I thought it.
Yeah, that's what I was asking, just
Yeah.
because the process that it went through is not Robert's rules.
Okay.
But if that's
Okay,
not what
let's
we're
do
going
this.
by, then
Let's do this.
okay.
Let's just clean up. For right now, does anybody have any objections, additions, or anything else to the minutes?
No.
Okay.
No.
May I have a formal vote? Vocal, please.
All approved.
Excuse me, Paul. Excuse me, Paul. Okay. Is there any objection?
No.
Then they are approved.
Very good.
Okay. Okay, then we can move on to the draft ACC legislation outline. Yeah,
So I, handed that to y'all, it says draft outline. They will go into more details about it, now or, okay, that's fine.
So all the board members should have before them what's called a draft outline administrative training committee. So under the state code and the emergency regulations, which passed effective September 6th of this year, the local governing body is permitted to pass certain legislation concerning the administrative charging committee. The county executive intends to introduce a bill concerning the administrative charging committee and recognizes the board as a entity with that's a stakeholder concerning that regulation. So what the county executive did was his office prepared this draft outline of the bill that he intends to introduce before the county council concerning the administrative charging committee, and would like any comments that the board may have concerning this draft, edits, modifications, additions, and know what the to hear from the board as a stakeholder. So that's what you have before you.
okay. Why don't everybody just take a moment? This is the, and just kind of pursue them, and then if you have questions and comments and so forth for Sega, then we can discuss it.
So is the expectations to give you comments today?
No, that's part of, so I'm just explaining what this
Okay.
document is. Because, we received it from the county executive office. I'm just explaining what the document is. The board is free to do whatever the board is going to do with the document based on the information that I've given you. If you have questions for the county exec or his
Right.
office, you're free to do that, but I was just explaining what that document is.
Yeah, so,
So
and
you
then I put it as an agenda thing for the next meeting for us to, for y'all to, look over it and discuss everything, if there's anything that y'all want involved in it.
Well, and that partially would answer my question, which is, do you have a sense for the county executive's timing for the
That's what
introduction?
I have to find out. I'll find it out. and
So
then
that'll give us an idea of how much time we
Yeah,
might have to follow
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Okay. At our last meeting, we said that we would go into closed session to discuss the ACC appointment selection process and so forth. And unless there are other issues that we need to discuss now, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into that closed session so we can have that discussion.
I'll second that.
You making the motion?
No,
I'm sorry, I thought you were making a motion.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I'll certainly make that a motion.
And I'll second the motion.
Thank
Okay,
you.
and may I have instead of going through the voice vote, are there any objections to going into closed session? Okay, you
I
thinking?
do,
Go
I
ahead.
just have a question,
Yes.
because we have an agenda, correct?
Yes,
We haven't approved the agenda. And once we have the agenda, I don't think you need to call for a motion to move through the agenda, if that's what we're doing.
no,
I'm not
that's
sure.
not what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm sorry, ask your question again. Perhaps I did not understand it.
So I guess one of my questions, we have an agenda,
Yes,
right, for the
Yes.
meeting.
yes,
Is one of the agenda pieces for this to go into this closed session right after we do our welcomes, right?
well, after,
Review of meetings.
in the draft, yeah, we passed out the draft
Okay,
legislation.
you know,
under-
Nelly, that's fine, don't worry about it, I'm good,
You sure?
I'm good, yep.
Okay, all right.
I
so we have-
understand what he's asking. He's just asking about are we following Robert's rules and procedures? Robert's rules, loosely, or are we following Robert's rules formally? And if we're following them formally, then the agenda would need to be approved.
Okay, All right,
I'm just-
what
I
I
don't-
would like in order to have some type of order is like some recognition from the speaker. I mean, if I need to recognize you, otherwise we're gonna be talking over each other.
Right.
So if you can just like ask permission to speak, raise your hand, I don't really care. But I need to have some type of order because otherwise I can't hear, if I'm hearing you, I'm looking at someone else. So, where are we? Let's,
Madam Chair, all I
Yes,
was going to
please.
say was, in order to be in conformance with the Open Meetings Act, we would, you would have to state the reason for going into the closed section.
I thought I did. Oh, and let me just do it again. If
Okay,
I
I'm
wasn't
sorry.
clear.
And
That's
maybe
okay.
I didn't, I may not.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm
That's
sorry.
no problem. All right. Yes, please. Go ahead. No, please talk.
So, because I think one of the ways, because you can't see, even if somebody on camera puts their hands up, if they're not saying anything, the camera, I don't think is gonna go to them, or are they gonna be able to see them?
I don't know. that.
But they can put their hand up on the call, I don't know if it's a web-based or Zoom, and you can see it, correct?
Okay.
And I don't know if,
Okay,
again,
that's
I'm
okay.
not sure what
The only
you-
thing I'm trying to do is have one person talk at a time, and so they need to be recognized. So, otherwise we'll have, like back and forth and talking, and people are not hearing each other. That's all I'm
No,
asking.
I understand that,
So
Chairman
how,
Hunt, so
how best
that's
to
what I'm,
affect that, how, I'm not sure, okay, of the technology.
that's what I was trying to.
Okay, does anybody have any suggestion on how we, yes, Mr. Cooper?
Thank you for recognizing me, and terrific. Obviously, yes, order to our discussions
Yeah,
is
go
a
ahead.
really good idea. I'll just observe exactly what you were saying, which is that, because I lived this at midnight in England last week,
Yeah,
there is the ability, of course, to raise your electronic hand
Mhm.
through the WebEx procedures. You will notice when someone is raising their hand, and I expect then you could
yeah.
seek
Just
recognition for
whoever
that
wants to
person.
speak.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that okay?
Sure. That's fine.
Is that okay with everybody online?
Yes.
All right.
So what was
Yes.
Brenda saying? Yeah.
Brenda, if you can hear us, can you repeat whatever you just said?
I was simply asking whether or not, simply acknowledging what the gentleman just said about approving the agenda. Did anyone hear that already?
Approving the agenda for tonight? I don't,
I'm just questioning whether or not we're using Robert's Rules of Order, or is this just an informal meeting to discuss the subject as we decided last week?
I don't think, I get you. I don't think this is this is a formal meeting, okay? And so we are discussing this agenda. So is your question, Brenda, whether or not we're going to approve the agenda before us?
Yes, ma'am.
Discuss?
That's the question.
I'm not sure that's necessary, but I certainly I don't have any objection to that. Let's do this.
Can I interject?
Yes, please, go ahead,
So-
Kiana.
The things that we had talked about in the last meeting is what is on the agenda. Am I correct? So that's why it's
Yeah.
based the way that it's based. I wrote down everything that you all said and I put it into an agenda, like, so we could have some type of timeline to go against, like, the things that we had to talk about today. So is there anything on there that you feel like that needs
any statements about Robert Rules of Order. However, if that's what the board can do in reviewing this rules of evidence, that could be added. So I've prepared from a legal standpoint, citing all the state code.
So. And, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Kiana, my question was more procedural, not that there's anything wrong with the content of what you have. It was more procedural question. My question was like, are we doing this strictly by Robert's Rules of Orders or not? Are we
No,
doing it
no, at this-
loosely? Let me
I'm sorry.
finish.
Uh-huh.
Are we doing it loosely? If we're not doing it loosely, then the way we're going is out of order. Because there, if it's Robert's rules, then we have to have an agenda. The agenda has to be approved. Once the agenda is approved, there's no need for the chair to ask to move to the next piece of
Okay,
the,
gotcha,
of the
gotcha.
agenda. You just go into it because that's part, the agenda has already been approved. So we
Okay.
don't have to move that. Now, the young lady was asking that, she wanted clarification on that. So she said, well, I asked if we going strictly by that or not.
Okay.
And I believe the chairwoman said, no, well, that we are going, it's not a casual meeting, it's a strict.
But-
So she wanted to clarify that, to say, okay, we're moving forward, but if we're going strictly by Robert's rules, we haven't approved the agenda. If we're not, then that's fine. And I'm okay either way. What I was gonna, my motion was gonna be to suspend.
I'm just going in and out.
We want to do it. At this point, we have not adopted procedure, okay, but we will get there, okay? So are we okay now to move forward? If not, just speak up.
Our video was out.
Oh, is that what it is? The video was out?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to.
Sorry,
I don't know
Sorry.
if, no, I don't think the audio, is the audio out too?
It's in and out. Audio is in and out.
Okay, can y'all see us? No?
No, not anymore.
I can see Brenda,
We
that's
can see
about
her.
it.
All right, we have some.
Can you hear us?
She said the
Yes.
audio was in
I
and
can
out.
now.
Yeah, I can now as well.
Okay.
It's in and
And just
out.
for the record, I'm sorry.
He
Hold
said,
on,
okay.
hold on.
he said
Oh,
1
okay.
second.
It's okay.
Oh,
He
okay.
said 1 second.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. Or, and the sound keeps cutting out.
Yeah.
I was wondering why it's not so. Not that I was bad.
I was about to say, you said you didn't want to.
I know.
I can't hear or see anyone.
Can you hear us, Michael?
Neither can I.
Yeah,
Who was that?
that was that. Film machine.
For the hour. Sorry about that.
Maybe we just need a speakerphone and put her, have one of those speakers.
So I just made a note for the crash course in Robert's Rules of Evidence.
I think we're that.
If we decide to adopt them, we have not made that decision yet.
That's true.
Correct.
Well, let's just figure out what Robert's Rules of Evidence is.
From rules of order.
That's what I
I'm
said.
sorry.
You guys are coming back into view and I can hear you now.
You hear us now,
It's
Herman?
a summary of it.
Yes. And I can
Okay,
see you
Brenda?
as well.
Yes, I can hear, the sound goes in and out, but I can see the group now.
Very good.
I was gonna say, can I make a quick statement? We're all new and we all come from different backgrounds. And we all do different things. So it's gonna take a little bit time for us to get it all together. We're all preaching from the same pulpit. Excuse me, I shouldn't have said that. I'm sorry.
That's okay. no.
Speaking from the same podium, how about that? And that we all can understand, because sometimes we may mean one thing and somebody may take it differently, and we still have to work together as a team and be able to get it together. So for my sake, I would hope that we all can understand that we all don't understand what everybody's saying right away, but eventually we will get there. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Paul. I think everybody here is in agreement with that, and
Madam
just,
Chair, can I?
you certainly can. And Sega wants to speak.
Well, no, it's been brought to my attention. I keep saying rules of evidence, and I know Mr. Morales was like, what are you talking about? I am saying, what I meant to say was rules of procedure. Rules of procedure, that I gave a draft of rules of procedure, not rules of evidence. So my apologies for misspeaking.
Okay, I think we're pretty much back on track, correct?
Yeah.
I want to make sure everyone is heard, and I think that the consistency is, whether it's Robert Rules of Order, whatever we decide. I mean, Sega has so worked really hard in preparing, the rules of procedure, offered to us. We can adopt some of them, or not adopt, whatever we decide. But the bottom line, I think, is we have to adopt something so we can keep some type of order in our discussion. Okay, all right. Thank you. And now, can we, if there's no further discussion on that, do I still have a motion for a closed session on, or do we have to repeat? Okay,
I want to ask a question before we
Yes.
go to closed session. If we're following the agenda, the ACC appointment selection, have we discussed that?
no,
No,
we have not
that's during
discussed
an
it.
open session. That is during the open session.
No,
That was like a basic general overview.
Okay, so help me to understand the agenda then. Maybe I don't understand the agenda, but according to the agenda,
mhm,
what I see during the
Yes.
open session was the welcome and roll call, the review of minutes, and then the board discussion of the ACC appointment selection discussion.
okay,
Then we were going into a closed session for 30 minutes, and that was specifically for the legal advice regarding the board's selection of ACC appointment with the Office of Law.
Okay.
So that's why I'm asking, right, before we go into closed
yeah, I
session,
understand.
have we had the discussion that's referenced in, under number 3?
So that was our next thing before the camera cut out. So that would just be like general stuff that y'all want your ideal candidate to have, that's it.
Okay, let's do this. We are not gonna discuss AC selection in an open session, okay? And I think the agenda, and I'm glad we didn't approve it, because the agenda suggests otherwise. It shows 20 minutes for this discussion, okay? And if you take off the 20 and just say 2 minutes, or just say 20 seconds, okay? The purpose of the closed session, and that's why I asked for a motion for a closed session, is to get legal advice on our selections. That's what was intended. So thank you. Arnetta, for that observation. And no, we're not gonna discuss that. Everybody with me?
Yep.
Online, any concern online?
I'm
No?
with,
Herman, is that you?
I said I was with you. I understand.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, so now, is there any objection to us going into closed session to get legal advice on ACC, on our selection for ACC members? Yes, Jay.
It's by no means an objection, but it's a question.
Absolutely.
After we've gone into closed session and we've received the legal advice, which is quite appropriate, and the reason we're going into closed session, is it the case, or is it possible that we would return to an open session for for a discussion of some of the aspects of the ACC selection process, specifically qualification? Will we come back into open meetings, my question?
It's not my intent tonight to go back into open session. I think we need time to kind of consider what Sega has to offer. And so, no, I don't think it's gonna be time or wise to go into an open session after that. So that's, any questions about that or concerns?
It's just confusing because if we're following the agenda, as she said earlier, that would have been, I think that was the reason we wanted to all get together, was to, kind of discuss criteria, selection process, and also, yes, to get legal advice on the selection. So I'm a little confused as to, I was trying to follow the agenda, but looks like we're going to number 4 and skipping 3.
Okay, I guess you can say that, okay. When I tried to address Arnetta's concern about the agenda, and if I didn't say it clear enough, let me just say it clear again. Let me say it as clear as I possibly can. We are not going to discuss ACC appointments for 20 minutes in open session. I think that is more appropriate in closed session. So the agenda is misconstrued and so forth. I acknowledge that and accept that, and we'll make sure that it's adjusted for the record. But no, we're not going to follow the agenda with respect to the discussion of ACC selections in open session. Is that clarified for you, Brenda?
Yes, and so that'll happen at another time, is that correct?
We're gonna get legal advice in closed session. And at that time, you can talk about whatever you wanna talk about. But I think we have to get legal advice before we have a discussion.
Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yes, please.
In the closed session, I just want to be clear so that we are not in violation of the Open Meetings Act.
Thank you.
We can't just talk about whatever we want. We are going into the closed session for purposes of obtaining legal advice concerning the PAB selection of ACC members. If there's going to be any substantive discussion,
Right.
we would go into an open session to determine whether another closed session for a very different reason would be necessary.
Right.
But the closed session is limited to getting legal advice on the ACC membership selection, which may provide the board some clarification on how to proceed with that, whether in an open meeting or otherwise.
Thank you. Yes.
And I was just going to say, I wonder if I might, at least for myself, if not for any other colleagues, reserve the right at least to discuss the possibility of coming back into open session as soon as we can for the substantive discussions. But clearly, I think it's appropriate to wait for the legal guidance. So I'm in full agreement, but I wonder if I can just reserve to receive the legal advice and then perhaps raise that
Absolutely.
discussion.
Absolutely. I'm conscious of the time.
Yeah.
And I'm conscious of, others may not be prepared. After we receive the legal advice, we just kind of need to think about it after we receive the legal advice in terms of how do we proceed. So absolutely, you can.
Got it.
Yeah.
Agreed. Yeah, perfect.
Anything else? I want to make sure everyone is heard and clear. Okay. All right. Now that wasn't an objection, but any other observations or objections, or can we move into our closed session to obtain legal advice on the selections of the AC, our selections for the ACC?
No
No
objection.
objections, no objections.
So we have unanimous? Okay. Good. Thank you. We're in closed session.
Hold on.
Is it 7:50, whatever it is?
5.
We're back in open session. Okay, now we're back in open session.
So let's give him a time.
I'm
a
sorry.
moment to open.
Yes, you're.
Oh,
Okay.
we're done, okay.
We're back in open session. And we need to discuss agenda items on date for our next meeting. And agenda items.
Are you sure you're in the open session?
I think.
Our
we are.
technical person has said we are.
We are? Okay. It's just, there's nobody here. Okay, maybe people dropped off after the closed session started. Sorry. I'm sorry, Madam Chair.
We still have a quorum.
Yeah.
Okay, so we can proceed. All right, so the first agenda, didn't we come up with some dates?
28th.
It's the 28th.
Yeah, I have something in here.
28.
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna keep September 28th.
Mhm.
Okay. Same time, 6 o'clock is fine.
Yes.
And, the agenda items,
Are we considering the applications that day? Will we receive them in advance though?
If y'all wanna y'all wanna select on the 28th, y'all can. If y'all don't.
okay.
But then we'll have to be in closed session though.
Mhm.
Right.
I think, we will receive the applications
After the,
The 20th.
after the 20th.
so the county exec has to pick his two from the thing and then y'all get the rest.
Oh,
Is that how
so
it's laid out?
he selects first
Yeah.
Mhm.
and we
Is,
get,
is that how
Oh,
it's
really?
laid out?
when did that? I'm
So
sorry.
he won't be selected until, I wanna say, I have to get back to y'all, but I wanna say it's not gonna be until the 20th.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
From a legal standpoint, if you all want to make a request to the
To have
county,
them earlier,
to send
yeah.
some correspondence to the county executive to get the applicant pulled sooner, there's nothing that would preclude you from doing that.
all right, I would like to request
Okay.
that we get the applications as soon as possible. Okay? Independent, and it really doesn't matter what the answer is, that's gonna be my request, because I don't see any reason to have us wait. If we happen to select someone that he was going to select, I just think that we should have them as soon as possible. Any objection to that? What's the downside of that I'm of getting the applications as soon as possible?
I just don't know the culture of government.
So I
But you
guess,
think that request is okay? If we are asking essentially to receive the applications almost when they do. So if we pick who they would have wanted to select, is that gonna be a problem for
Yes.
us?
From a legal standpoint, the PAB gets 2 members, the county
Okay.
exec gets 2 members. When the county executive issued this press release, which is included in the, in your binder, I believe the press release stated that they were seeking applicants for the ACC for appointment by the PAB and the county exec. So since both entities, so as a, based on the public safety article giving both entities the right to appoint, and this press release saying that it was seeking applicants for both entities, I don't see why there would be any reason why you could not request that the county executive forward all applicants to you as soon as possible.
Let me ask you this, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that I don't see a downside in the selection of members, because whether the county executive chooses the person that we wanted, or we choose, that person is gonna, we saw them as being eligible for that, and we thought they were gonna do well. My only concern with that is not so much the applicant pool per se, but the timing. Because as soon as possible, for the county executive and be like, okay, as soon as possible, be after I make my 2 selections,
I see.
which may take 2 weeks, that's the soonest I can send them out to you after I make my selections. And that's not what we're asking. We're not asking for him to send it to us at the same time that he gets it. We just saying as soon as possible. So for him, it's like, the soonest I can send it to you is after
I
I
like
make my
that.
two,
I
my two
like that.
candidates.
Can we just say as soon as possible? Okay, I like that. Therefore, like,
That,
So wait,
instead
are
of
you,
an address.
want to say as soon as possible or say as soon
Or you want a
as you
date certain?
receive all the applicants?
No,
I
and
don't think that's what he's saying.
for me,
Okay.
it is, I'm not concerned about him making his decisions. I just want to get it sooner rather than later. Okay, he can do it, so he makes his decisions and then he sends it to us. I just don't want it to be 2 weeks after the deadline. Like, we can choose whatever that time is, but saying as soon as possible doesn't give a deadline, doesn't give a specific amount of time. We can say within 2 weeks of the deadline, within 1 week of the deadline. Whether he's chosen his or not, that he can come back to us and be like, well, I want to choose let him say that.
I see.
Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
No.
I got
So
that.
do we want to put a date?
ASAP?
So so the letter that Kiana will send, I will say as soon as you receive all the applicants or by
Or
the
yeah,
deadline
by
next
the date.
Friday.
By the next Friday, the 23rd.
I think my position
Yeah,
is slightly different
I like,
here.
I.
From my perspective, this is our first time working with his office.
Yeah.
I think we need to show some deference.
Yes.
And let's see
Yes.
what he wants to do.
Okay.
I don't see the need of sending a letter personally.
Okay.
I think we need to, you have a relationship with his office,
I do,
right?
Yes.
I don't think it will take anything for you to pick up the phone and find out from them when you plan on sending it
I
over.
think that's excellent.
I don't
I
think
think that's
sending a letter
excellent.
is appropriate.
I think that's
Good job.
excellent. Thank you, thank you. And you know what I like about this? Remember one of my opening statements that we all bring a skill set, okay? That, we do this kind of thing in real life. And thank you, Annette. I think that's wonderful. Because why ruffle the feathers if we don't have to,
It's as if we're trying to tell him what to do. That's
Yeah.
a problem.
like that.
Good job.
Right on.
So the board has made I don't know, if we have someone, just
No.
for purposes of, being clear about if you guys it seems like you guys are taking a vote that you are directing your executive secretary to inquire with the county exec office, as to when he intends to forward the applicants received pursuant to the press release.
I am not saying that at all.
I understand. what
I'm
you're
not saying that at all. What I'm saying honestly is that this discussion can stop.
Mhm,
Is that Kiana knows how to do her job.
mhm.
You know when it closes. You know when it's appropriate to follow up. You know when we having a meeting. You know when we timely need things.
And you've been in this discussion.
I think you should be allowed to do your job
Okay.
without us including any directives to tell you when you need to do anything.
I
Gotcha.
would agree.
Thank
And
you.
Madam Chair, I think that you also have that same freedom, just to be able to talk to the county executive and just be like, when do you think we'll be getting the things?
Mhm.
Without being, somewhat either confrontational or like,
Got it.
let's get those things.
Great.
But you said it closes when? It closes.
Friday.
16.
Friday.
Friday.
But I thought you kept saying something about the 20th.
So he won't be selecting until after the 20th.
Oh, they say after the
Yes,
20th.
yes.
Okay.
So I figured we'd probably end up
Just-
by next weekend.
yeah, just
by
wait and
next
see.
Friday.
Yeah.
I think we can be flexible,
Yeah.
honestly.
But I understand where you're going.
Perfect. Okay, agenda items. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was saying, I thought you were going to go to agenda items, so I had we had a discussion, so on agenda items, if I may, we had a discussion last week about really needing to get down sooner than later, because it'll guide us as to what the PAB mission is. Interesting discussion, I think we'll have lots of perspectives on it, but I think we need to have that discussion. I would like to have that discussion sooner than later. Is it possible we can fit that discussion in at the next meeting, or if not, the meeting
So are
subsequent?
you saying that you want to do the rules of procedure for you all? or-
No, this is what is the purpose? What is our mission? What is the scope of our duties that we're taking on here? We had a discussion at the last meeting. Again, I remember it well because it was about 1 a.m. England time when we had it, and I thought, excellent. That it really is the kind of discussion I think we should have at this point.
Is everybody in agreement to that,
Initial discussion. Okay, hold on a second.
So that was not had during the first meeting that you got, because I wasn't here at the first meeting. So my assumption was that was had in terms of what the purpose of this committee was, what our charges and how we're going to proceed into that charge.
It was included in the PowerPoint, but
It was not had.
It was what?
It was not had. We had no discussion on what our scope is, what it is, our mission is here.
And if I could just point out, the proposed rules of procedure do outline, the functions of the board. And that'll both, yeah, so that may be a way for you guys to contemplate and deliberate concerning the rules of procedure that need to be considered and ruled on, or voted on, and in conjunction with Mr. Plumlee's suggestion.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if I think what Mr. Romney is saying is that he wants to know what our mission statement is gonna be and what our mission statement stands for that we stand behind. Is that what you're trying to ask?
Yeah, mission statement may be more formal than as an output from the discussion, but I think that I certainly felt that we were not necessarily, we were not of a mind. In fact, I'm not sure we'd all thought it through, what it is that we are looking to accomplish. We know we have to produce a report at the end of the year. Got that. We know that we make the ACC appointments, but there's a broad mandate for this board to work with the police to improve policing in our county. That's it. That's the first statement. It's right at the top of the state legislation. It's what we're here to do. And that is a very broad statement that may be interpreted broadly or more narrowly, and we haven't had no discussion on what it
Well,
is.
let's do this.
Yep.
Can we agree that on the agenda for next, for the 28th, is gonna be the proposed rules of procedure? All right, because I think that will inform the discussion, and because, I think you're absolutely correct. Even with the PowerPoint, we really didn't have an in-depth discussion on the PowerPoint and so forth. That's appropriate. But I do think we need to talk about, we need to discuss the proposed rules of procedure. Otherwise, we're gonna start off the way, we're gonna be like where we started off at this meeting, so I think we need to do that. And in contents of that, as we are discussing that, I think it's certainly appropriate to talk about the mission statement. I don't know if I call it a mission statement, but I understand where you're going with that. Okay, yeah, I think that.
I had rules of procedure there, and then the last one I had is, sooner than later, we're going to need to start putting some thought and planning. And, I don't know if it means we set up a committee or a team to work it. We've got an annual report that's due by December 31.
Yeah.
And if we let this slip into October and worse, towards November, I do feel we're unnecessarily running out of, using up our runway here.
Okay, I think those three items are perfectly fine. Yeah.
so just to be clear, we're doing proposed rules of procedure, which would be like the objective of the PAB, correct?
Well, included in the
Okay.
proposed rules of procedure
Got
will
it.
be a discussion of the PAB.
Okay, number 2.
Okay, that's number 2. It will be here, 1, 2, 3, or you can put mission under here.
Okay.
But it would still be, the discussion, the mission statement would be included in the discussion of the proposed rules. And like I said, I'm kind of pushing this discussion of the proposed rules first,
Right.
just to have some order in the discussion. Okay.
No, that's all right.
Yeah, they gotta go.
Oh, but Madam Chair, okay, Madam Chair, just one thing that I should have mentioned at the outset. The rule process, it is lengthy,
Mhm.
just because once you all consider it, it has to go through the public comment, public hearing process,
Okay,
which is gonna be at least 30 days for the public notice and so on and so forth. So I just want you all to be aware of that as you consider
okay.
the rules of procedure. Perhaps everyone could review it in advance of the
Please,
meeting
please.
next, or on the 28th, so that you guys can move expeditiously through that rulemaking process to pass your rules of
And we're
procedure.
going to have a lot of meetings before those rules are finalized, because it's a 30-day public comment
Okay, we
period.
got that, but they turn the lights off and this is
Well,
closed.
I was just going to make the suggestion that at the start of each meeting, it's a question actually, at the start of each meeting, while that's working its way through, after we've agreed it, should we not agree that each particular meeting we will run it in accordance with those rules?
With what rules?
What the rules.
The rules that we will approve, but are still going through
Have to go
the
through
public
this.
comment period.
Well, they're not in effect yet,
Right.
so,
But we can certainly use them as
That's
an
fine.
outline.
yes.
We can certainly use them as an
As a
outline.
guide.
Okay,
Yeah.
do we need to close the meeting?
Yeah.
With the adjourn, motion,
I make a motion that we close.
second?
Second, yes.
We are now closed, and I'm sure there's no objection, 8:13, 14.